Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Grounds Saturday. Hold on one second, let me adjust my volume here slightly. All right, maybe that's a little bit better. Hold on. One moment while we have a slight technical difficulty here. All right. Hello and welcome to a Saturday stream for Fantasy Grounds Unity. This is map and image creation, and I'm Josh. And on our Saturday stream is where we go over all of our image-related news. We talk about upcoming art pack releases, what's been released. Also, we go through our demonstrations and we do usage of all of the different art packs that we have pushed out so far, as well as ones that are just around the corner. So thanks everyone for joining me this afternoon. I'm having some problems with my headset, so if I sound a little bit weird or if things aren't coming through quite well, please let me know and I'll do whatever I can to make any sort of adjustments for you. So yeah, some great news, lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. If you guys have not tried it out yet, I would suggest that you jump into the test channel and try out some of the new changes that are coming our way as far as like the image related stuff. There's a big new image related update that's coming. It's going to reinstitute our Control Z, our undo functionality, with a redo functionality as well, and many other very cool kind of features that Carl's been hard at work on putting together. So super exciting there. And I am very grateful for all of these changes, which makes our lives so much easier, all of us that are making all of these maps and using these art products. In addition to that, the Forge is well on its way, which is again very exciting. So in previous iterations, I have been taking all of the maps that we've been creating, and even though I'm pretty far behind, trying to put them in the forums, in the module exchange. Well, we're going to be putting those onto the Forge for free. So I'm going to be putting together a bunch of different modules with all of the stuff that we've created over the last couple of years, and putting that on there so you guys will be able to get updates. So that way, if anything ever changes and whatnot, it'll all be housed right inside the Forge, which is super exciting. As long as you have the art subscription, or as long as you have all of those art packs that are included in that, you can just load them up and use them to your heart's content, which is awesome. One of the great features of doing it this way is that you'll actually be able to see all of the different layers and be able to interact with it instead of a single image. So any of these maps that get produced this way, you have a lot more control over altering them, moving things around. Very cool stuff, and I'm super excited to see what comes out in the future. Let's see, in addition to that, upcoming, we have a really big art pack coming out this next month, which is going to be, it's completely designed for creating fantasy style settlements, including fortifications and whatnot. And this is a very exciting one. We're going to actually look at some of the art pack today, and we're going to go through and build a nice little settlement. Maybe a city or a town. We'll do some fortifications, and there's lots of really cool features in this. And so many of these art packs, you're going to see there's going to be a little bit of overlapping in the images, not necessarily exactly, but and that is because not everyone's going to have the art subscription. People are going to buy certain art packs, so you might get the same shadow brush a couple of times in art packs, and so on and so forth. So that is to be expected, and so don't fret about that. It's nothing going to be ever major along those lines. But this is going to be a super exciting art pack, and I'm very proud of it. So that should be coming out this next month. And as I said, this is going to be a very large art pack, more than 500 images in it, which means that it's going to take up the slot of both art packs for the August release. But I think it's going to be well worth it. And you're going to see how easy it is to use it. I've taken the extra effort to not only create all of the different images, but also little image conglomerates little prefabbed groupings of images, so you can just grab them and quickly build something very fast. In addition to it, it'll have all of the small and individual images that you've come to expect in the art packages, so that you can tailor and custom everything to anything that you like, and create any sort of image that you could possibly come up with. Again, with the Forge coming out, all of these art packages and everything will be, I believe that this is true, that you'll be able to use all of these art packs and create all of your own images and be able to put them on the Forge as well. This is going to be Fantasy Grounds Settlements. It's going to be called the Settlements Map Pack, and we'll be diving right in and going through all of this stuff as well. So yeah, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to move in. I'm actually using the modern theme today. This is one of my favorite themes. I love these kind of like sleeker, more streamlined kind of themes, the ones that have a little bit less of the texture orientation, or it's more of a design rather than graphic representations of images or items in the real world. I do like both, but when I'm working, I tend to gravitate more towards these types of themes. They're a little bit easier on the eyes, and when you have to stare at a screen as long as we often do, then sometimes we have to, kind of accommodate that. Which is one of the reasons why I go with these very low contrast kind of themes at times. Great, so let's jump right into it. We'll jump right over into our images here. Now, I always run my stream, not always, but most times, run my stream in Core RPG. There's no particular rule set. So a lot of the features that I show you when we're testing this out, as far as like line of sight and lighting goes, please remember that there is no specific kind of rule set that is governing this. Many of the lighting and line of sight features are determined by the rule set, so they will alter a little bit. So if you're in, let's say, for example, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, all of those different tools are going to be set up to be tailored towards that particular rule set. A lot of the rules do have very specific sighting and lighting guidelines, and Fantasy Grounds tries to adhere to that. Great. So let's get going here. The first thing I'm going to do is open up my assets pack. Now we're just going to mosey on over to our settlements. And you can see here, FG Settlements Map Pack. Now, this is not the final version. I do a lot of testing on images and whatnot as I'm creating these art packs. So the way that I've installed this isn't the actual one that you'll be getting. So there might be a little bit of variation in some of the different images and whatnot. I do a lot of test images. And I trim it down and make sure that everything is much more accurate for the final product release. So again, there may be a little bit of discrepancy between images in here, especially like naming and whatnot. The naming convention that I use is different than Fantasy Grounds. I usually have to change them. But so just be forewarned of that. So I'm going to dive into the backgrounds here. Now I made a couple of different pre-created maps here that you can use. And I try to do this on most of the art packs. It depends on what the art pack is. But usually I do try to create at least a few example maps. And this is great because a lot of times you just want to grab a map and throw it down. You don't have time to create something, or you want to use it as like a springboard, or at least a inspiration for your own creations. And I try to maintain a pretty good understanding of all the different images. Sometimes I do use some of the images from different packs, kind of put them together to create a more of a final product. But for the most part, these are all going to be just created with the images that are going to be contained inside of the art packages themselves. So here we'll have a look at the first one here. And why don't I'm just going to move this over. And if you guys are unfamiliar with this, you can just double click on any of these and you're going to get a nice little preview window that's going to pop up. And this is great because we don't actually have to create a new image record. We can see what's in here without actually having to, as I said, dive too deep in here. And as I open this up, we can expand it, and it's just going to zoom right in just like it would if we had created an image record. And you can see that here we have, and I can't zoom in and out, and so I'm actually going to create an image record here in a second. But you can see here that we have this nice background. So all of this water, all of these coastlines, all of the rivers and everything, it's all contained in this art package as well. So we have a whole new plethora of different background images that we can actually use here. And we can dive right in, and I'll actually just create an image record for you right now. So here again, I can either double click. There's a couple of different ways. Why don't we go through this and I'll show you guys. I know that as oftentimes people join the stream that has never watched before, or they are less familiar with Fantasy Grounds. So there's always going to be several ways to achieve the same result, especially in the image area. So in the image area, we have lots of different options, and it's a unbelievably robust system here. So to create a new image record, we want to definitely, well, let's first talk about the difference between our assets and our images. So the images are our workspace where we can paint and add images and do all of the stuff we're actually going to be playing on. And our assets are what we're going to be building all of these different image records with, right? So let me just close these down and I'll just show you guys one more time. I'll open this up. So we have our image button here, and these are finalized products, right? So this is the one that we made last time, our battlefield. I'll just click this open, and you can see here, why don't we just turn off our player view? Oh, we can leave it on, it's fine. But here you can see that this is a conglomerate of many different layers and images, and we built this last time with the new Siege stuff that just came out in here in July. Super fun art packages as well, and lots and lots of cool stuff to do here. So we close this down, and that is our actual image record. Now our assets are the conglomerate of all of these different art packs, all put into one place that we can easily access them and create these image records from. So one of the ways that we want to transfer these from one to the other is I'm going to go and find backgrounds one more time here. And I can either just grab this image and I can drag it out and drop it into this area over here. And if you see that, you can see it's going to create a new image record for me with this image right in there. Let's zoom in here. So you can see I created a little town, all kinds of different little buildings. We have a little stream here, lake, and some coastline. We even did some ships and whatnot, a little fortification, little castle in here as well. And all of these trees, all of this forest type imagery, all of the grass and everything is all included in the art pack. We'll be kind of getting right into that, the water and everything. So we can close this down. Here we have another one. Now this is actually a map that I made a while ago, but all with these same images. And this is an entire little city here. And so again, this time actually I'm going to go for my preview, and I'm going to create an image record from this preview, and boom, we're going to see we can do exactly the same thing. So if I want to look at it beforehand, I can create that preview, and then I can just click of a button, import that, and create a new one. So let's just move this over, and let's just change our workspace here a little bit. I'm going to actually squash this down. Yeah, that's about as narrow as I can make it, and move that right over, and maximize my workspace here. And now I can zoom right in. So here you can see that we've created an entire area here. And again, all of these images are included in the art package. So you can definitely recreate this in a pretty fair facsimile right inside of Fantasy Grounds. And if we zoom right in here, you can see that we have all of these, and all of these different elements are all added as well. Lots of different like temple structures and walls, waterfalls, all of it is included in this art pack. Farmland. So you can really create these overviews of an entire, as it is, says, a settlement, right? Anything from towns to cities to massive constructs. And again, I created this entire, like, it's like a bridge that has a whole settlement on it, on itself. All of this can be done right inside of Fantasy Grounds with this art package. Cliffs and waterways and all of the like, which is very, very exciting, super exciting. And we're going to be moving right into some of the other elements as well. Hold on one second. I just have to make a small adjustment. Alrighty. And yes, all of this is there for your creation process. And we're actually going to get in and be using some of this art package today. And we're going to be building a little area. And I'm going to show you how quick and easily you can actually do this. We might even be able to do quite a lot here. You can create these rather complex kind of structures. Yeah, super fun. And it's super fun to use. I was actually... during the creation process, you know, I tested a lot. I build and I build and I build and see what functions and what doesn't function and which images work best and whatnot, and try to streamline that process. So I try to thoroughly test all the art packs to a pretty large extent here. So let's jump right into it. Now, we got a whole bunch of different ways that we can approach this, depending on what we want to do, right? I oftentimes always that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I oftentimes add a lot of water elements into especially art packages like this. And the reason for that is that most settlements in ancient times were always built on waterways because it was the easiest way of travel. Transporting goods in and out of an area, especially if you're trying to support a large population, would require that. And so if you look at most of the ancient cities, were always built either on like a delta, like at the opening, like the mouth of a river towards the ocean, or almost always on some sort of waterway for transportation. So in that light, I always try to include a lot of those elements in this. It's one of those instinctual kind of things that makes a place much more believable. And that's not to say that there weren't landlocked areas, but it was very common for that kind of thing to go on. And I also have a whole bunch of different brushes. I don't think I have them loaded in here as well. You know, the classic kind of rivers and whatnot. But why don't we just go into a little preview here of some of this stuff. And we'll just get going here. Oh, is that true? Drake Star Dragon, 75 to 80% of mankind lives near coastlines. Yeah. You know what's very interesting is I've always lived right on the coast. And I'm not exactly sure why, because I don't do any sort of water activities. So we have some backgrounds. There's some other backgrounds as well. I think that in this particular iteration, I have them in the decorations area. But here we get into our decorations, and I divide this up into a couple of different elements here, basically to kind of organize them in a way that will make navigating through here a little bit easier. And what we have here is we have decor, and this is going to be all of the different elements that you're going to be using to actually like decorate the area here, right? So I included a map key, and even though that we don't have any sort of textual kind of elements that we can add into our maps, we have to do that on our own. You can always export any of your text as an image and put it in that way. But hopefully in the future we will get a text module in our image area. And so we have some compass roses. Oh, looks like I have to fix that up. All of these number plates. We have some scrolls and the like, and also some corner decorative elements and whatnot. And we can come back up into our flora now, and we have a whole bunch of different stuff here as well. And so here we have all of these different grass patches, and one of the things that I've always tried to do is streamline this process to make things as easy on you as possible. Now, I instinctually kind of think about things a little bit differently because I come from it from an artistic background. I'm not saying that you don't, or if you don't have a rather instinctual way of applying these images. But one of the biggest comments that I get from people is that without some sort of instruction, they have a little bit more of a difficult time using some of the imagery in the way that I tend to look and see them to be used. So trying to create that in a particular fashion, making it a lot easier for you guys. So I have a whole bunch of different shapes, and you're going to see how these work. We can throw these together to make some really cool kind of grass areas. And it's a little bit hard to see with this blue background, but if you see here, what it is, it's just like these, basically like these conglomerates of like grass shapes, and we can layer these on top. I actually create them in a way where they stack exceptionally well, so I'm super excited about that. And then we have like crops, for example, and you can see, you saw those in the previous image as well. These just get layered right on top and work very, very cool. So I added these tree shapes in two different fashions, and again, you're going to see how I'm going to use them. So one that has no outline and one that does, for different ways of defining things. And what I do is I layer these up, and then I add in a whole bunch of new types of images on top. So we have a whole bunch of different conglomerates here. And if we move back up, and we have the outlined versions of all of these as well. And so you can just kind of place these tree shapes around. And you can see that these, and this is where the scale really comes into play here. That these tree shapes are rather amorphous, but then when they're used in the actual iteration themselves, and when we're actually using them in context, you can see that they actually work really, really nicely, work quite well. And then we have in here, we have all of the land and water elements. And so we have all of these different coastlines, lakes, we have a whole bunch of different cliffs, and all along these lines. I think there's a couple more in here as well. And here you can see all of these different elements. And one of the really cool things that I found that you can use a lot of this stuff for is layering and layering and layering. And you can see, and I've used that in a couple of different ways in some of these. And then we have all of our structures. And so we have tons and tons of these. And then, as I said before, lots and lots of different conglomerates. And so, for example, you can just grab a whole section of buildings and just drag and drop them and just plop them right on there and build up these structures very, very quickly. I actually based a lot of these shapes off of actual old, real medieval type settlements. So the shapes of them should seem rather natural. So yeah, that's our base overview of all the different elements here. And so we can dive right in and begin to make something that's really, really interesting. So this should be coming out this next month, which is super exciting, and we'll be able to build all of these different things. So when you're putting together all of the stuff for your Forge elements, I think that it will be super fun to do here. So I'm just going to close this down. We're going to create a new area over here. And what I often like to do is I will dive in and create, we'll move all the way up. We're going to start off, as I oftentimes do. Let me just close something down here really quickly. Move these things around. I apologize for that. Not quite as organized as I oftentimes tend to be. Yeah, perfect. All right. So we're just going to dive right in and begin to make all of this stuff in the image creation area here. And so what I do is I think about, and so we have a water base and a land base, right? When I'm doing these kind of creation systems, well, the first thing that I want to think of is, where is the majority of my background going to lie? What is the easiest way am I going to build this up from? And as I said, oftentimes I start off with a water background and then build the land on top of it. But we certainly don't have to do it that way, right? We can do it any way that we wish. But in this particular instance, I think that what I will do is actually use the water base here. And I'm just going to drag and drop this right over here. And this is going to create a new workspace for me, as you can see here. And this is a nice textured. I already did a bit of the vignette that I often add to a lot of my images around the outside. So this is pretty much all ready to do. It's got tons of texture on it and whatnot. And I have a whole bunch of different elements in here that we can use to add other textures to it as well. I don't think that I actually went into some of the effects and whatnot yet. And then we can start to build our land sections right on top of this. And so I'm just going to jump right in here, and oftentimes what I'll do is change my grid size. I have a tendency, let's see here. I think that this might be, yeah, let's make this 50 by 50. I have a tendency to always use 100 by 100 in my grid system. And the reason for that is, one reason for that is it makes doing the math of the image creation so much easier for me. Especially doing it in Photoshop and whatnot. I can just use a 100 by 100 scale. So I know if something's 300 by 300 pixels, it will be 3 by 3 on the grid system. It's just a quick and easy way to do that. And also 100 pixels is a great area in which allow me to create a lot of detail inside of there. I find that 50 by 50 is a little bit too limiting and makes things a little bit too pixelated. Pardon me while I have a sip of coffee there. So we'll just jump right in here. And one of the things that I've done in this particular art package is I have a whole bunch of different like islands, and I have a whole bunch of different lakes and whatnot. The way that these interact is probably the easiest way that I've come up with thus far, which is super exciting, as well as all of these different, and these particular coastlines as well are very involved, lots of different kind of natural shapes and whatnot. And you'll be able to see, like, if I, whoops, let me just do that and fix that again. Accidentally double clicked up here, taking it out of full screen mode. What I will do is I'll just, all of this is very easy to be dragged and dropped. Let me just lower down the opacity of my grid back here. And again, I'm in test. I am in the test channel. So if we do run into some bugs, it is not, it's to be expected because this is the test channel and this is the new build, and I've been testing it out and trying to keep up on any sort of bugs that I uncover. The question comes from Cody on YouTube. Is this an update to come, or is it already there? So all of the image creation system is all in there. This is the new art package that will be coming out this next month in August. Question from Spencer on Twitch. Can you change the island or lake and change the color or so that the blue offset that option? I'm assuming what you're asking is, can we change the color of all the different water elements? And you certainly can. Yeah, you certainly can. Yeah, you have full control over that. You can get into your layers tab, and if you open up your little color picker, as you know, you can change all of these colors. One of the reasons why I set up a lot of these images that way is so that you have complete control over a lot of that stuff. Absolutely. So, and a lot of this too, a lot of people have reached out to me. I do use a lot of the painting layers. My favorite way to kind of work is in the painting tab. But a lot of people grab and like to just drag and drop images out here. And so I always try to accommodate that in all of my art packages, and this is no different. So if I grab one of these images, for example, and pull it out here, you can see we can just pull this out. These are probably not sized correctly, so we will have a little bit of a size discrepancy, but we can change that. So as I pull and drag and drop this out here, let's just drag and drop this out into this area. Let's line these up so that they're a little bit greater here. There we go. And as you can see, I can drag and drop this out, and this will just create a seamless kind of environment. And this is so much fun. I love this kind of aspect of things as well. But look at how quickly I can just build this coastline right along here. And what I've also done in this particular art package, which is super fun, is I've created all of these variants as well. And these ones that have a little bit of a faded edge. And I'll show you exactly how this, right, we have this. And so if we ever get into this area, one of the things that I really try to avoid is, lots of repeating patterns. One of the things that always has bothered me is when you see the same image over and over again. So I always strive for simple and easy ways to change that. And so here we have these elements that we can slide right over the top. And we can create these additional kind of elements. And now I also use these to create variants in elevation as well. And you'll be able to see that as we progress here. But here we can create lots and lots of different variants here as we build along here. And so we have all of these kind of elements, as we can see, where we're just moving along. They're all seamless and they just snap right together. And it becomes quite effortless as we begin to build any sort of shape that we really wish. And we have tons and tons of them, as you can see here. Looks like this one just isn't quite the right dimension. So as I said, this is just my test build. So all of the actual elements are all set and squared. And super fun. So you can see how easily it is that we can build this. So now let's just build. I'm just going to go a little bit crazy here. And we'll just kind of randomize and build this out. You can see that some of these elements are slightly different depending on what we want to do and how we want them to interact, right? So I always try to also include not just ones that fit perfectly like this, but smaller elements. You never know when you want to have a narrower kind of passageway. And I have a whole bunch of ones that will accommodate that as well. And so again, we have all of these cool elements that we can just kind of drag and drop out and completely change all of this. So I can just kind of just plop this right over the top. And again, this is where I think it's much easier to use the painting tools, and we're going to get in and using those in conjunction with this too. We're gonna build all this stuff. So why don't I just build like a small little island here? We'll make it a little bit complex. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these elements, and we'll bend it right around, and we'll just drop this right here like this. And we'll grab another one that kind of curves around in that way. Let's do this one. And you can see all I'm doing, I have no real game plan. You can see that a couple of these are a little bit off here. And I'm just going to manually adjust them here like this. I don't have any particular idea, or I'm just kind of going with the flow and just dragging and dropping these a little bit here. And any of these elements on the inside I'm going to fix. You can see that most of these are all great, but a couple of these will adjust here like this. And we'll grab this one. And even though that we have a pretty, well, this is going to have to be down here like this. Let's grab this guy and do it like this. We'll move this, and then we'll get a couple of these narrow ones And I'm just going to shrink this down. So we're going to make that about half as large as it was. And then I'll just add in an element right in the middle here, and then I'll adjust my water size in the background here. So I hope you guys are having a great week. It is a lovely day here today. A bit cool though, actually. And I'm just going to delete those ones. And then I'm going to grab something like this. Or maybe actually let's grab this one. And I'm just going to rotate it like that. And I'm going to hold down Shift to maintain its ratio here. And I'm just going to drop this guy right in here like this. And I think I'll put it maybe somewhere just like this. Great. So I have all my basic shape here, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab my water area here, and we'll increase its size here. Let's do something quite large. In fact, what I'm going to do is I have this large kind of area here. Why don't I actually create a new folder? And I'm just going to grab all of these elements and I'm just going to drag and drop them right inside my folder here. And what I'm actually going to do now is I can grab a hold of my folder, and then I can adjust all of this in all at the same time. So if I want to scrunch this down, for example, and change all of these parameters once I have them all lined up, you can see how easily and how great that works. And now I can actually grab, and I'm actually going to do this. I have a couple of elements in here, which I'm going to grab, like these. And I'm just going to fill in these empty spaces. And I'm going to do that here. I can actually come in and grab a couple of these individually. And just make sure that they still line up exactly the way that I want them to. And now I'm going to make a painting layer. And we'll switch over into our painting area here. And I'm just going to grab this. And I'll just stamp in a couple of elements like this. And we can grab this guy. And all of this, I'm not going to worry too much about my pattern here because we're going to be covering a lot of this up with like grass and whatnot. But here we have created, and here we have a little bit of a weirdness where that connects. Great, we have very quickly created an entire area here that we can now build on top of. Super fun and super easy to do. Look at all of this this cool stuff out here. And now what I can do, let's just name this ground. I oftentimes will name that ground. And now we're going to jump over, and I'm just going to type in island up here. Island. And now this is where I really start to have some fun, and I start to manipulate the whole kind of thing here. And I'm going to grab, let's see, I'm going to continue into the painting area here, because that's my favorite. And I'm going to just use the stamp tool. And you can see that now all I have to do is just begin to stamp these around. And what I do oftentimes is I will take off the aspect lock ratio, and I will then adjust this even further. Because if I change this, right, you can see that this completely changes the way. That's a little bit exaggerated. Maybe we'll go like 7. But you can see that we have changed it. Now by changing the size of it, I can easily begin to add this into my images, and it's not going to look as though that's a repeating kind of a scenario, right? And these are all like the rotation and all of the different actual elements themselves. They all add to that kind of ability, right? They all add to that. And then to further augment that, we can add in these other islands in through here. And just begin to drop these around. And this is beginning to look exceptionally natural. Really starting to look as though that this could be an actual place, right? Like there's so much going on here. I mean, you could actually use this to do regional maps as well. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to think about all of my different waterways. And I'm going to keep these all separated because we're going to be needing to interact with it in a couple of different ways. We want to be able to have these layers and whatnot. And so I'm actually going to take this painting layer and I'm going to drag it and drop it right inside of my ground layer. So this is all of my ground elements, right? So this is where I can come back to at any time and do any sort of readjustments here. So now I'm going to go back up into my, let's remove this and go back into my land and water over here. Well, no, I want to go into my flora here. And here I'm going to grab all of these different, well, actually, you know what? We should probably do our waterways first, like I was saying. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Always plan out all of your land structure before you start adding decorative elements like grass and whatnot, because if you don't, you're going to have a much more difficult time readjusting things later. Like if I drop let's say, for example, a lake in an area and I've already added a whole bunch of different stuff, it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to maintain. So let's go back into our decorations and I'm just going to type in lake. And this is the easiest way that I have found to actually interact with the system. I mean, you can always kind of go through, but the search functionality makes it so much easier. You can just type in whatever it is that you're looking for, and you can just jump right in there. And also, one of the things that I like to do is we're going to go back and we're going to add in all kinds of cool decorative kind of elements. We're going to add in all of the bells and whistles at the end here. But you never want to start off that way, right? It's kind of like doing a painting. You always want to do your sketch first, get your base going. So create your land structure, get a good understanding of all of those different elements before you start getting into everything. So for example, right now, if we started painting in all of the different water variations and whatnot, if we start doing all of the different land stuff that we, all the little detail-y kind of things, that could be wasted work because we may end up having to change things later depending on how we start to move forward. So always try to go in a very vague way and then refine as you get things completely kind of finalized. So again, I can either paint these around or I can just drag and drop these out. And you can see I can just drop this right in the middle there and I have a perfect, perfect lake. This is the interactions that I think that is just makes doing this fun and less laborsome, right? It's just dragging and dropping a few things. You can just kind of create as you go, let your imagination kind of go wild, right? So again, I can just grab and drop these out, and here we've instantly changed the entire scenario, just dragging and dropping a couple of different images out. And I can do exactly the same thing too. I can type in river. And I have brushes for all of these as well. So we have, I can paint out rivers and I can do all of those things as well. We can just do whatever we wish. I have brushes in this particular art package for cliffs and a whole bunch of different stuff, roadways and whatnot. But these are super fun to use, even in this kind of iteration. So like if I drag and drop this out, for example, look at this, we can just drag and drop a river system right out here. And in Fantasy Grounds, one of the great things about it is that we have all of this control over our size, and we can do it all on the fly, right? So what I do is I'm just going to line this up with my water's edge here. And this is designed to just kind of overlap there slightly. And then I have a little brush that we're going to go in and just paint the water right over the top there. So you can actually build this anywhere that you wish, right? You can bring this in like this, and then we can come in and just clean up these edges super easily. That is the primary focus of the art packs as I have been moving forward, is not necessarily, I want to maintain as highest quality as possible with the easiest usage that we can kind of muster up here. So I'm just going to drop this size down to maybe like 15. We're going to do, and I'm just going to find a good spot and just kind of put it in something like this. And then we can build some more right on top there. Now, actually, you know what we should do first before we change the size, and this is a pretty good practice to get into, is when we group them together, we can size them all at the same time. Now, if I grab another river, lots of these rivers are predetermined to be all work together. So if I grab something like this, for example, and I pull it out here, as you can see, nice large river. And then this one is of an appropriate size to this. So you can see that they just match right up. Right? Now what I can do is I can grab both of these, and if I change the size of this, if I make it half, you can see that they go all together. So I don't have to worry about matching them up after the fact, which is kind of what I did with the coastline. So you build it all out. It doesn't matter the size that you're building out, make it all, because it's designed to match that way, and then you can change it to whatever you wish after the fact. By selecting them all together. And Fantasy Grounds is smart enough to maintain that ratio between them all. And now I can use this all as a conglomerate, now that I have these all connected here. So for example, if I want to even rotate this, you can see that this is going to match it all up perfectly. So let's say I decide that I want to do another little, maybe we're going to do like a little river coming this way. And I'm just holding down Control so it doesn't snap to the grid at all anymore. And I'm just going to match this up to something like this. And here I have lots of different options, right? I can manipulate these further. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip this. And I'm going to move this in like this. And I'm just going to change this so that this matches up this way. And then I can grab these together again, and I'm just going to move this. And I'm just going to find something that seems just about right for me. And we can expand this out a little bit. And then I'm going to add in a little element down here. Great. And I'm going to add in some additional stuff with this as well. So I'm going to actually grab this and I'm going to reset the size of this, and I can readjust this after the fact. And see, I could even duplicate this, for example. See, I've made another one. We'll put it right next to each other. And then I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to flip it the other direction as well. And even though that it's the same image, you can see it's the same image, but because, oh, there's a little bit of extra stuff in this particular one. And now grabbing these together, let's drop this down to maybe like 10, and you can see we have this nice little complex river system, and we can just kind of drop this here, and then we can readjust this to whatever size that we want it to be. Super fun. And we can add in all kinds of different elements. We could even, probably what even a better thing would be to do is to add it right to here, right? Like make this, and we'll move this on top of the other ones. Because oftentimes you get these little river systems that come off of these larger ones, right? So we're just going to line this right up. And I'm going to turn this slightly. And then I can just move this one right out of the way. And then we're, like I said, I have another little thing you'll see. We'll take care of these edges, no problem. So is everybody having a great week? I hope. So much fun. I could just once I start to do this, this becomes a little bit addictive here for me. Great. Now we have all of these different elements just like this. And this is the time where I'm going to start to paint in all of my different other elements here. We're going to do a little bit of grass and whatnot. And I'm going to have to take a very, very quick little break. I apologize. But I have to, I've had having a little bit of some health issues as of late. And so I'm going to have to just step out just for a moment, but I'll be right back and we'll jump right back into this. I do apologize, but it'll just be just a moment. So just hang tight and we're going to get right back into this and keep going here. So just give me one moment and I will be right back. Alrighty, and I'm back. I apologize for that. Thanks for hanging out. I may have to do that once in a great while I'm streaming, but I do apologize. So let's get right back into it here and begin adding in all of these other elements. Like I said, I'm not going to fix any of these little bits right now. Maybe we should fix them just in case we have to change some of the areas and the shapes and whatnot before we do too much. So we can just jump right in, and in here I have let's see here, a couple of different ways that we can kind of go about that, and we can kind of do that. We should probably just do that while we're at it. So I have I have a couple of different water shapes and whatnot. We also have like waterfalls that you can add in to all of your different creations as well, and they're super fun to use. And again, I usually do this in like a painting area. So we have like these little like these elements that we can kind of just drop right in here, and this is kind of designed so that we can I have actually a whole bunch of different ones that I have added into the final art package, but basically the way that these work is you can just kind of drop these right in and create your mouth opening and many different shapes and whatnot. Something just like this. As you can see, just line it right up and do it this way. But what I actually am going to do is I'm actually going to be using these ones right here. We'll probably be adjusting this a little bit, but I wanted to show you guys how you can actually kind of dive in here. And we probably, it looks like it's already 4 o'clock, so I'm not going to probably be able to do like a completely finished map with all the different stuff that I want to get into. So maybe what we'll do is just focus on this area over here. And so we have a couple of different brushes in here, a couple of different images. One, we have a nice little, just like a faded little water brush. And again, we can just kind of paint out these little areas in through here. And again, we can drop down our opacity. Thanks, Play Games Patty. I appreciate that. Getting old is not always the most fun thing. And you can see how easily you can kind of anything along these lines. And you can see even along here, and we actually have I include in some harder edges that we can use as well. But as I said, I have a whole bunch of different in my other iteration. I should have loaded it up of all of that stuff that we can actually do here. But why don't we just, I'm just going to adjust some of this stuff a little bit. And I'm just going to move this over here a little. And we can kind of just scrunch that up. And see if we can't find an appropriate kind of size here. And I think I'm actually going to flip it this way. And then rotate it here. And I'm going to hold down Control so it doesn't... And that seems to be just about right. Yeah, that's pretty good there. And so again, we can switch back and forth. And any sort of brush that you are concerned about you're going to be using a lot, you can just throw it right down in your little hotkeys, and which is my favorite new trick. I love it. And I'm just going to adjust these. As I said, this is just, I'm going to be doing this for right this moment, but in the actual art package there is all of these to make this a whole lot easier. Great, so we have this really nice base, and we're going to be moving forward here. So I'm going to jump into all of the different flora here. And we'll be using, I'm going to use as many of these as I possibly can in this demonstration. So we have about 2 hours left. And time flies. I can't believe we've already been on here for an hour. I always think to myself beforehand, I'm like, 3 hours seems like such a long time. But then when you get in here, and working on it. Sometimes we don't even get our maps finished. There's just so much other talking to do, and we get off on tangents and whatnot, questions and things, and it can just fly right by. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, again, add in some painting. So let's see here. Do we have two different painting layers here? I got to start labeling these. Yeah, we do. That's fine. I'll just make a folder, and we'll just call this water. We should probably call it waterways to not be confused with our water base. And I'll grab all of these and just drop them right in there, just like that. And I'll make a new painting layer. We'll call this one grass. And then all of these different shapes. Now these shapes might seem like this one, for example. We'll just grab this. And they are kind of predetermined to have some interesting kind of characteristics. And there's a whole slew of different ones in here, some that fade off and whatnot. And I'm just going to show you that once I'm going to grab something like this, which is this kind of like base shape, and you can see it's got a little bit of a texture to it, and some stuff on the background here. And again, we're going to be using our stamp tool, and I'm not going to be changing any of my opacity at the moment. And what I'm going to do is I can do it a couple of different ways, and this is where it starts to get super fun, right? Because that all of these elements have a little bit of fadedness around the outside, I can drop this down in underneath my waterways, and I can do a rather large kind of plopping down of something as my base, and then come in and add in some additional kind of elements on top of that. And you can see that this was actually designed so that we can just kind of layer things on top of each other here. So let me grab something that's got a little bit more complex. It's got a lot more stuff going on, but I can just kind of start dropping this right on top of here. And you can see how I'm starting to create some really interesting shapes here with very little effort, and some faded elements on one side. So what I've done is I've created it so that you can kind of rotate it around, create some faded elements, but then you can break it up and begin to really create some interesting kind of areas in here. And again, I'm doing this underneath, and then I'm going to go back over it, and I'm going to pull it up to the edge here. So this is the kind of, so let's jump in here and get some additional kind of, some interesting shapes here. And so we have some with hard edges and some with softer edges. And you can see this contrast with the green, and I'm just going to be just dropping this around. And so these are all designed. That one's a little bit over there. So I'm just going to grab my eraser, and we'll just hopefully take care of that. There we go. So I'm just going to be conscientious that I don't go outside of the edge of my my actual land here. And we can start to build this up. I'm going to grab a couple of these ones, and I'm just going to switch this out. And you can see that we can layer these, and we can do all kinds of fun stuff. So all of these different shapes, they just kind of build on top of each other, right? We're just building and building and building. And it's this, you see, like using them in this particular way, that we will never get those that kind of feeling of repeating patterns, right? It's always going to be something brand new. Let's actually grab something like this. And now I'm going to create a second painting layer. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to add these in something like this. And we could even do like color variations. And I'm going to make this quite small. And so the size and orientation are not going to interfere with the way that these interact at all. And I can even change the opacity and do lots and lots of cool stuff. You can see that this kind of sticks out there a little bit too, so I can always come back, grab my eraser. Let's see here. Maybe. Again, this is in test, so I erased some stuff that I didn't quite want to. It's probably over here. You got to get the middle, I found. There it is. You got to get the middle of the image that you're trying to erase when it's a stamped image. So cool. This is starting to look really, really good, and I am really having such a great time. And I really like that kind of that mix and match of the soft edges with the kind of more rigid stuff. I think we'll back that off a little bit. And I'm just plopping this stuff around. And wherever I see too much repeating patterns, I just change the rotation and the size, and I just go right back over it. And you can see that this makes it look exceptionally complex. Oh yeah, absolutely, Svenster. Yeah, that's a great idea. And there's a whole bunch of cool, and that's the thing with the add in all of these textures. There are some great textures in the new Siege packs as well. And we could even use and mix and match a lot of the stuff. I'm just going to do a little bit more here. And I can even come in and do some of these small little neat shaped islands, right? I'll grab maybe some a different shape now. And you can do this in a lot of different ways, and I'm just going to show you. And I'm going to, one of the reasons why I make these shapes, right, is so that I can come in and use all of the different sizes of it, all of the different angles and shapes and whatnot to create interesting, well, shapes. Layering some of this faded stuff over the top, as you can see. And this is really like the fundamentals of creating good images, is you want to have interesting kind of shape design. And because of the way that this has a very, it's textured, but it's also very flat, and the way that it's represented here, you can layer it without having any sort of repercussions, right? Sometimes when you layer something over and over again. And now what we can do, and here's some of the cool stuff that I have been doing as well. If we go back into some of these coastlines, especially like these elements, right? I can drag and drop these again on top of this and create elevation elements. And we can drop this something like this. And then we can go back into our painting and begin to blend this right in. creating some interesting kind of interactions. I think that I'll go back up, and we could probably just do it right from here. Yeah, we'll grab something like this. And then I want to grab one that has a bit of a faded edge to it. And if I want to, I can lower down my opacity. Or I could even, let's cancel that. Let's go right into the layer and lower down the opacity from here. And really get that sense that this is fading up out of it. So cool, so cool. Hey, the Dark. Diark, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a great week and weekend. So excellent. Awesome. Now what I'm actually going to do is go in and we can start to do all of our construction elements, right? So let's start off with, we can just type in dock. Whoop. O and I are right next to each other. So be careful there. And we have a whole bunch of different elements here. And again, we can just drag and drop these right out. And these are all scaled to be appropriate, right? So we can just grab this and drop it right out. Maybe we're going to have some in here and out in here. Why don't we do, we'll do some buildings around in this particular area. Oh, is it cold there? It's starting, it's actually pretty chilly here too. Yesterday was quite chilly and rained. It's been raining for the last 2 days. Today it's nice, but it was around 50 degrees when I got up this morning. I think, ooh, Montreal. I'm not too far away from you. I'm in Maine. Well, it's pretty far, but yeah, it's cold for July here as well. And we can grab a couple of these elements as well. This one will, as you can see, that these are all the same scale. It's just a much larger ship. So why don't we grab this guy and drop it down here, and I'll just rotate it around. And we can grab a couple of these ones, maybe. Some really complex elements here. Let's just flip it. Oh yes, the Celsius. That's a completely different map pack, Spencer, that's right. So we've already begun to add in all of these elements. And we have all of these individual ships as well. And again, we can just drag these out and drop them around if we wanted to. Oh, and yeah, we have some bridges. And what I think I'm actually going to do is we'll create a folder and we'll just call this structures. And we'll start to drag and drop all of the stuff right in there. And we'll add in a couple of these bridges across some of our little areas here. We'll add in some roads and whatnot. And we can add in a whole bunch of different types. And I want to get into some of these conglomerates here. And we'll start to build this up very, very quickly. So why don't we start off with some smaller little let's start with some bigger ones, and I'll just show you how quickly we can start to populate this. And these are all set up conveniently so that you have like nice little streets that you can kind of place together like this. Nope, I already used that one. And we'll build a nice little city island here. As you can see, like this is a natural kind of street progression with a little square and whatnot. So these all just kind of snap together. Maybe we'll grab this one, and holding down Shift, I'm just going to click on some of these other elements here. And then I can move it all as a conglomerate. I just don't want it to be, I want to keep this as a nice divide here. Move this out. And we have some all kinds of these groupings. Lots of different types of buildings and shapes, so that making any of these settlements, maybe what we should do is build like a little castle up here. So let's move some of this stuff. I'll just rotate it and we'll just drop it over in here. And again, we have all kind of look at how many of these that we have here. It's just makes so much fun. Like we can do a nice little roadway here. And this just adds this whole element of ease to this kind of creation. Placing down all of these individually could take an extremely, well, it would be quite a long time. Oh, well, I appreciate the sentiment. Don't worry, I didn't look. I didn't look. I don't know. I don't know anything. And we can get into, there's a whole bunch of pre-created these kind of walled structures as well. And if we hold down Shift while we change the size here, it'll maintain its ratio. let's get rid of that one. Let's move this one over. And then we'll build our own up here, and then we'll add in all kinds of different trees and really begin to populate this and lots of stuff. Wizard towers are always great. This map package. So the question comes from Vulcan. Yes, the map making tools are part of Unity. That's correct, Bella Muerte. And the packages, we do have an art subscription, which is $5 a month, and it gives you access to all of our art packages. And this particular art pack is coming out this month in August, this next month in August. And let's put this guy maybe over here. Yeah, maybe like that. That sounds good. And now we can get into all of these other elements that are going to be so much fun. So we have many different of these, but let's see here. This is basically the brush for doing your own walls. And what I will do is let me create, let me just grab all of this stuff that we just dragged and dropped out here and just drop it right into, well, our structures. So let's see if I can get it in here. There we go. Close that up. So all of our structures are in one little spot there. And I'll create a new painting layer. And I'm going to create a nice big like castle area up here. So I'm just going to start maybe like in here. And I'm just going to click and pull this out. And we can go along here. And I'm going to keep it like up on this little bit of incline, but maybe we can have it come down. And then I'll hold down Shift and double click, and it will connect that for me. And you can see I'm not going to worry about where the gate is or anything along those lines if I want to open something up. You will lose access to the art packs. That's correct. You don't lose the map created. The map you created is all part of. So the actual map is saved as a data information. It just all of the technical data. It's the same kind of stuff that you would send to your players, but you don't lose any of that. So if you ever, and this is the way that I always look at it as far as like subscriptions go. I know that a lot of people don't really like the subscription-based thing. I love it. I think it's great because, like, let's say, for example, I use Photoshop, right? And Adobe has switched over to a subscription base. And I actually think it's a great idea. And the reason for that being is that if I stop the subscription, it means that I'm not interested in using it anymore, and therefore I don't care if I have access to it. And that way, but if you ever decided that you wanted to use it again, you pay your $5 for the next month, and you have total access. You don't lose any of the thing that you've created. All of it comes right back. Who is Adobe? Yes, Adobe Hacienda. And now that I have this little conglomerate created. So no, you don't lose the map that you've created. It'll never go away. It's just technical data. Basically what it does in Fantasy Grounds is it says, look in this location for this art image, do this to it in the workspace, you know, rotate it, change any colors, and so on and so forth. Right, well, you don't actually lose it. You just don't have access to the actual image side of things. But yes, you won't be able to interact with the actual images themselves if you don't have this. You're also more than welcome to purchase the art packs as well. They're all on the store, so you can buy them and have them forever as well. It's completely up to you, whatever way you do it. But for as it stands right now, I believe that there are 30 something art packs out. So yep, you can certainly do that as well. So anything that you can add in anything you want to. You don't need the art subscription to use the image tools at all. That is just in Fantasy Grounds Unity. And now I'm going to grab some of these. And in the same kind of iteration, I'm just going to start to place these around here. Created a nice wall around it. Oh yes, the sci-fi part. Yes, in the future we'll have hopefully lots more sci-fi, and I want to do some other stuff as well. I want to do like a Victorian art pack for like Cthulhu-esque kind of things, and lots and lots of different stuff. So yeah, Starfinder. So how is Starfinder? I've never gotten a chance to play Starfinder, but I would love to check it out sometime. It looks super fun. And now we have a whole bunch of these kinds of things that we can come in, and I can add in some little round what are they? Well, I forget what they're called at the moment. I see. Yeah, it seems really interesting. And I'm going to get back into some of these elements. I'm going to start to build up the actual castle element itself. So if you look, let me go back into my backgrounds, and you can see that I've actually built some of these. Well, let me go into the images so I don't have to do this. Oh, that's from another art package. So here you can see we have all of this stuff, and it's just layered images on top of each other to create that kind of feeling that it's a large like castle kind of structure. All of these images are included. So we can do exactly the same kind of thing here. We can start to build up some of these images. So we can start off with some base images, something like this. We can make a few different buildings around inside of here. Yeah, let's put it like this. And we can even begin to build our own structures out here. And I'm just going to flip it this way. And I will show you how we can add in a whole bunch of different stuff here. Just so much fun stuff. And here we have some towers with some walkways over the top of them. And these are great to like add on top of a lot of stuff like this. So I'm going to move this to the side, and we'll put this on top at first, at first. And we can even, if we wanted to, switch back over to a painting layer and begin to drop some of these around. We can do a lot. We can just do so much. And once I create my roof shape here, what we'll do is this one needs to switch this way. And what I'll actually do is create maybe like a little foundation like this around that one. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back over here. So we have a whole bunch of different walls here and whatnot. And all of these will work exceptionally well. I have them all set up as brushes as well. But I think we'll use like that kind of stone field. Field stone, not stone field. And all you have to do to make this appropriate is this. And I'll make a new painting layer. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'll start somewhere in here where the join will be a little bit easier for me to... and then I'm going to drop this down. So this is just going to be really a rough kind of example here. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and double click that. And then I'm going to drop this down right underneath all of that stuff to create my own base like there. And I could put in a whole bunch of other yep, and then I'll add in all of the shadows after the fact. Oh yes, we could erase things, especially with the line tool. Let's see, D-Tape break time. How's it going? Gives you a really good idea to make a regional siege map. Oh yeah, yeah. You know that if you look in the winter art pack, let me just get off on a little tangent here before we go too much further. Let's go into the FG Winter map pack. In the backgrounds, so most of the time there'll be all of the pre-made maps will be in here. I actually created, let's see here, is it this one? Oh yes. So here is a map of Snowtown that is on fire, and that is specifically created for that, and I have one here as well. Obviously, you're more than welcome to create your own. But that was the reason why. So I have it here before it is destroyed, and then the other preview is after the attack. Yeah, check me out. In fact, all of these maps in here are specifically created to kind of fill in the missing maps from Rime of the Frost Maiden. So we have the one where they go to the lake, right? There's like a lake in it. I don't really remember. And then all the ones for random encounters and whatnot. So I think maybe it's this one when they go down to the edge of the lake. Yeah, you bet. In fact, that's when I actually made that art package specifically for when that was coming out. That was a fun art pack. Super fun. But yeah, you could certainly make your own, and you could add some of the snow elements. Again, the way that the system works, you can put them right on top. You could just start to paint in snow and whatnot right over the top of these things. All right, well, so before we're already almost to 5 o'clock, and we got so much to do here, so much stuff to show you guys. So let's do some of the trees and whatnot from this art pack. Now that we have a bunch of these elements, and then once we add in all of the shadows and whatnot, and this is really going to start to separate here. So let me get back into the settlements art package here, and we're going to get into some of these trees. And I want to show you, because this is really a really exciting thing that I think that works really, really well. Is I have these two different tree elements, and I separated them because Yep, it'll have all the brushes. It's not only does it have brushes for like tiles and roads, but I also have some for, this is my, so bear with me here, like the way that this is organized and whatnot is from my creation method. So a lot of it is all over the place. But for example, we have like a cliff brush. So you can paint out cliffs, for example. Let me just create a new layer here and I can show you. So you can just create like cliffs right along the edge. And so you can just kind of come along and make your cliffs. You can do like roads. I didn't add a coast brush, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll add like a coastline brush as well. But yeah, brushes for all of that different stuff. Rivers and roads and all of that. Walls. But you can use anything that is seamless and repeating like this. You can use for a brush as well. So like this, for example, I can paint this right out. You can see that this gets a little bit weird at times, but anything that is seamlessly repeating, you can use as a line brush. So if I were to switch over to an ellipse, for example, I just move over here, I can pull this out. And then I could flip it and it should go the other direction. To make a quick like island or something, and then you could just fill in the inside. So anything that we have, and most of the things in the tile section will also work exceptionally good as brushes. Oh, so let's go back up and go into some of these trees, and this is a really neat thing. One of the things that I've always struggled with is trying to create foliage that's going to work well, especially in this kind of scale and scenario here. But again, let's grab some of these, and you can see how this is going to work here. So basically, much in the same way that I did with the grass, we can do with these trees. And so let's just start to add in some of these tree conglomerates, right? And these just pile right on top of each other because there's no outline. And so I can just begin to layer this and create much more dense kind of looking forests. And you're just going to get this this nice like pattern recognition. And this is just like so much fun and so easy. And then what I do is I also have, let's go back into the outlined ones, where these are all designed with an outline and have a little bit of a cast shadow, as you can see if we zoom in here. And then what I do is I just layer a couple of these right on top. So you can get the best of both worlds. You get this kind of layered, cool kind of experience. And you get this really nice kind of pattern of where these trees are and whatnot. And then we can grab in let's get some smaller groupings here. We have some really large ones, and then we have some scattered ones. And this is really what I want to kind of push towards, is that, oh, thank you so much, Blaking's Patty. I'm trying to create things that are easier and easier to use, and hopefully that I'm getting there. Hopefully it's working. And once we start to get all of this stuff, you know, we'll create a whole bunch of different stuff and just kind of play around here. We can create, I have cobblestone so that we can do areas, and yeah, lots of fun stuff, But here we have some large groupings, and I think that the main objective here, maybe we can have some coming up over the wall a little bit. Some large trees. You can see that these are ones all with outlines, and then we have ones without. And then what I like to do at the very, or even we can do it now, is I do a lot of my color adjustments now with a adjust colors layer, and maybe we can just bring down the brightness a little, up the contrast. Oh, and let's before, well, we have an hour left, so we got some time. Let's dive in here and make some areas look pretty. As I knock everything over. So I'm going to go back into up here into the no outlined trees and grab some of these. And you can really see the difference when we zoom in here. And so we can start to paint these around. And this might be a little bit too much up and through here. So I'm just going to jump back in and I'm going to erase some of this. Break some of this up a little bit. Yeah, that's quite a bit better. Yeah, I can really see people, especially with the Forge coming out. You guys are going to be able to make your own modules and build these really cool places and share it with everybody. I'm just so excited to see it. You know, you really want everyone's imagination to just go crazy. Grab some of these smaller groupings and do some stuff out like in and around some of these buildings here. And I even have some nice elements like this. And lots of cool texture things. Let's go back up and grab some of these outlined ones. Now we have lots of singles, and these ones are we can put these right on top. Oh, so we have a question from Theater of the Mind Gaming. And the question is, I thought that we wouldn't be able to do that as the assets belong to Smiteworks. Has something changed? Okay, so the way that it works is you can share your maps with each other. You can even include something that you build with our map packs in a paid product. However, there's no actual There's no actual image information that's going to get shared there. The people, it's just as though the people that purchase your product, you'll have to have a little disclaimer that says art subscription required, or these are the art packs that I used, and so on and so forth. That's the only thing. So it'd be the same exact thing as if you were to create a Savage Worlds module, for example. The people would have to have the Savage Worlds rule set in order for it to function, right? So as long as they have the art subscription, you're more than welcome to sell those on the Forge, which is one of the great things that the Forge is going to open up to all of us. It's that whole thing. Yeah. So you guys will be able to use all of the tools that are being presented to you to make these wonderful worlds, and you can share them for free or as a paid element on the Forge. And I think that really adds in one of the things for me, like I don't mind spending several hours creating a map, even for my home games. But it adds a whole nother element when it becomes something that is like shareable like that, right? Like something that can become so much more. Like I'm already, as I'm building this, you know, as we're throwing this all together, and I really had no game plan in the very beginning here. But it already is starting to take on a life, right? Like it feels like a place I want to start to dive in here and figure out who lives in these places, what's going on, what type of community it is. It's just world building to me is just like so much fun. And I can grab in, let's move over here, a couple of these like little single guys, and that's the other thing that I think the Forge will really do too, right? Like all of your homebrew content that you're making for your own games, you can then share with everyone else, which is just amazing. And I even have bushes and whatnot that we could actually come in and we could create another painting layer. Drop this down in underneath. I should probably put these, all of this stuff in structures as well. But I'll take this painting layer and I'll put it right underneath all of my structures. And we could even do some like poking out from underneath some of our trees. Now I'm going to show you guys a really cool trick in just a moment. Let me just throw in a couple more of this stuff. So I'm always trying to figure out, I spend a lot of time in Fantasy Grounds building, and even if I'm creating an art pack, and I do a lot of work inside of Photoshop, for example, I come into Fantasy Grounds and test it and use it over and over again. So I try to find really fun and interesting new ways that you can interact with the system to make things easier, because I want to make things easier as the creation process. The less difficult it is to create the images that we want to, the more time we can spend on refining things, right? Oh yeah, that's great. So Theater of the Mind says on YouTube that would love to be able to share some stuff. I have an art subscription, but honestly haven't used it that much because I wanted to be able to share. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that, and that's one of the great things about Fantasy Grounds is I think we have an amazing community. It's one of the most positive, um, helping communities that I've ever seen online, which it just fosters wanting to share everything. You know, it's great. Oftentimes, online communities can kind of go in a strange direction, but I just love the Fantasy Grounds community. I think that it's just full of amazing people. I could just go around and place these bushes for forever. But you can see how much that just adds, like that another layer of interaction. It's just so much fun for me. I just love to see these things starting to come together. Makes the places feel like lived in and real. All of the incidental little things, like these like bushes that would grow along the edge of the wall, right? You can always see that there's like these structures, and it's always like some bushes that are growing along the edge and whatnot. Throwing them in, they'd be on both sides as well. We can just start placing them around. We make like a little courtyard in here. I think that I'm going to have to finish this map. I don't see any other way around it. I'm going to have to do it on my day off tomorrow. That's right. Bushes for rogues to hide behind. You gotta have fun. Gotta make places for the rogues to hide. These little wooded areas. Going to adjust these colors a little bit more. Let's give it a little bit more contrast. Oh, so the trick that I was I'm going off on another tangent here. So here I'm going to use another adjust colors layer, and well, let's I'm going to turn this one off for right now, and I'm going to create a new one. So perhaps we want to change the color. Like we've put down all these trees, but then we were like, oh, well, I wanted to maybe make it so some of the trees are different colors and so on and so forth. So all I'm going to do is maybe add in a little bit more red, maybe take away a little bit of green, or maybe take away a little bit of blue and green. So it's much yellowier. And then I'm going to add a mask. And then I'm going to start to do some of these areas. And I'm just going to randomly place some bits around. And then I'm going to start to blur this out. And now that I begin to do this and I start to add in all kinds of different little elements in here, I can now come back in and I can make them more red, or I can make these darker. And this is how I tend to do a lot of my shadows and whatnot now that our blur functionality is kind of back in. Maybe I want to make these much lighter. But I can now come back in after the fact and do all kinds of, and I can do this on several different ones. I could do several adjust layers, and I can come back in and I can also remove sections. Yeah, that's exactly right. good for making autumn or diseased areas or whatever you want. Oh, thanks so much, Theater of the Mind. Yes, this is the base water image. Lots of texture to it, and I have a whole bunch of other brushes that hopefully we can get to using to actually enhance it a whole lot more as well. Yeah, it's super fun. And I'll show you, this is exactly what I do for most of my shadows too. So let's create a new adjust colors layer. And this time I'm going to make it darker. I'm going to drop down the red and the green. I want it to be like blue shadows. And then we'll add a mask. And then we'll have to adjust this again after the fact. But holding down Alt, I can now create these shadows. And we can blur them right out. And that is a bit too dark, so let's just bring this up a little bit. Look at how great those shadows look. And now I can just go around and add in shadows wherever I wish. And I can hold down Shift and Alt to start to take away. And we can also paint in shadows just like we used to do. But I find this to be a little bit more time effective, and I can adjust them after the fact. And see how great that looks? Yep, it's all being made inside of the engine. So the question is from quests and cliffhangers. This is all being made in the engine in Fantasy Grounds Unity, and it is. Yeah, we've added all of these. We started off with nothing, and we're building it all from scratch. It's taken us about, well, I've been doing a lot of talking and whatnot, but we've been going for a couple of hours and going through a whole bunch of stuff, yeah. Yeah, this is all built in. Oh yes, I think that Fantasy Grounds Unity has the most powerful map creation suite out there. It's amazing what you can do. We can add in all kinds of effects. Look at, I'm just going to throw in some shadows here, and we can. That's a little bit too much, so I'll just take some away. And for example, if you're unfamiliar here, let's throw in a new effects layer, and I'm going to make this one water. You can see it makes everything all watery. We can add in a bunch of different ripples and stuff. See, we zoom in here. And then I'm just going to drop this down right in underneath the base here. You can see we got this nice water effect, and we can change all of these parameters. And we have this nice water effect going on now. So you can do all kinds of cool, crazy stuff. We can mask out all of these things and just do everything that we want. Oh, thanks, Belmarte. And I'm just going around now using an effects layer and adding in some shadows. I think I might actually do 2 effects layers for shadows. One with stronger and one with weaker shadows. So I think what I'll actually do is not use this particular layer, and let's change this to structure shadows. But all of these, like along the edges of these buildings, you can see we can just add in a little bit of and I could even go in and do highlights with this and everything. We'll do some of these like just rough. It doesn't have to be like crazy exact or anything. So maybe what we'll do is I will oh yeah, absolutely. Quests and cliffhangers. I'm here every Saturday from 3 till about 6. And that's what we do. We go through all the different tools and functionality and art packs and all of that stuff. So if you have never seen this before, let me just show you something really quick that is quite impressive here. Let me get into, let me just type in a wall, for example. And we did this before if you didn't get it here. But like, for example, when we painted out this wall, the painting tools in here are quite phenomenal. So yeah, I'll grab this one. So here, what I can actually do is, because I'm using the line tool, I can actually paint out whatever wall shape that I want. And then I can come back in if I want to, if I was doing a structure, and then I can erase out a section of the wall. Maybe we're going to have a little bit here. So you can build these maps on the fly too, like super fast. Super flat, especially if you're just using them for particular elements. So you can paint out rivers or whatever you want to do. Reveal areas when I want. Yeah. That's a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take some away by holding down Shift. So yeah, you're correct. It is a very powerful set of tools. We should probably focus up here, stay focused up here. I think I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to do another layer and add in some softer shadows as well. Oh yes, it's got all the grids and everything. So the question from Twitch is from Howie, which says, "What about grids or group or combat moving?" Yeah, all integrated in exceptionally well. Line of sight, lighting, everything. All of it is here. So we have all of our lighting effects. We have complete control over the grid and not only is the grid system completely integrated, but distances and everything, as well as token locking and movement and the whole nine. Yeah, absolutely. So we can add in all of the lighting that we want to, all of our line of sight, and all of our grid system. So I just have my grid turned way down, but I can change it to whatever color I wish. I can change it to whatever size. Let's make it red so we can kind of see it here. So I can actually come in here and I don't even have to keep it a completely square grid. I can turn off my aspect lock ratio. Right now I have it set to 100 by 100 pixels, but I can change this to 85.21 by 100, but I can put it back as well. I can also change the distance of the multiplier, right? So in play mode, holding down both mouse buttons, I can drag out distances, right? So I know that that's 8 squares across. But if I come back into my grid system, here we have the distance and whatever. I can make it 5-foot squares. And now we know that that's 40 feet. And I can actually put in maybe feet here. And now we'll say 40 feet. or I could just put in the little whatever, and we can do it this way. If I was going to be doing it for scale, if I wanted to actually use this as a scale model, I might want to have each one of these grids to be, let's say, 100 feet. And then I would know that that's 800 feet across. Okay, so some of the line of sight, if it is added, if it's necessary to the piece, then the line of sight is already added into it, absolutely. But only if you drag and drop it over. If it is painted in, no line of sight is used, but let me show you guys a couple of things. So let me just get rid of that. And I'm going to set this back to 1 just for its default. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just call it square. 1 square. 66 squares. So you can put in there anything. It's completely customizable. Here is something that's really cool about some of the painting features and whatnot as well. Let me just put this back to its. There we go. So let's say, for example, and a lot of people who watch the stream will already know this. I'm just going to grab this wall. And let's say, because you're going to be painting this out, obviously you're not going to know, you're creating a custom shape. And so the line of sight is going to be determined on your shape, right? Not necessarily the image that you're using. So I'm just going to grab, let's do an ellipse. Let's make a circle out here. So I'm going to grab and I'm going to draw out a circle. So here is my circle. And let's say I want to have line of sight in this. Well, all I have to do is to go over to my line of sight tab. And there's a wonderful little button that says duplicate paint layer as walls. And whatever type of occluder that I have selected, so right now I have walls selected, boom, it's going to create all of that line of sight for me. So I can paint out an entire dungeon, for example, and then just hit a button and it will calculate all of my wall line of sight with one easy. So click. Now let's delete that layer. That's my line of sight layer. So I'm just going to delete that. Let's go back in to my painting tab, and maybe I want to get rid of some here, right? And maybe some over here, and just erase some away. And then we can come back over, and boom, you can see that it only makes the line of sight for where the walls are. Yeah, you bet, guys. There's so many quality of life, map making tools and tricks and things inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity. It's just, it actually, to me, so I do this for a living, right? I make these art packs and I make maps, and I do, and I have done so for a while now. But up until this point, up until Fantasy Grounds Unity has come out, I have always made my maps in like Photoshop or the like, where you know, lots of control. I can actually build them and do them inside of Fantasy Grounds so much faster and so much easier that when I have to do it in Photoshop now, it seems more labor intensive. It's but that's because the tools here are designed for specifically that purpose. But yeah, super fun, super fun. I just once I dive into doing this, it's kind of hard for me to stop. Actually, I just have so much fun. And we build lots of cool maps here. And one of the things that we do here is we're having a new thing that comes out. Yeah, it absolutely can. So the question from Howie on Twitch is, can anything you make this be monetized in a one-shot? And it certainly can. Yeah, we have a new Fantasy Grounds store coming out. It's called The Forge. It's already out in a soft release. So it's already available, and you can put all of the content that you make on there and sell it, which is amazing. So you can make, you can use our art packs and create all of your images. It's just that whoever buys it has to have the art subscription or own the art packs. But everything that you do, you can put right on there, and you can create one-shots, campaigns, whatever you'd like, and you can sell them right on the forge. I think it's just going to open up a whole new world of homebrew content, and there's so many things coming out where there's some really great stuff that's coming out. Dominic has been working on some stuff, and it's just going to be amazing. The things that you're going to be able to do from creating all of your content right inside of Fantasy Grounds. You'll be able to do everything that you want to in one program instead of having to do all of this different stuff, export it out into the Forge and be done. And you can do all of your updates and everything. And so it'll be downloaded just like any sort of official content. All of your updates and whatnot will be there. Just spectacular stuff. It's really an exciting time for Fantasy Grounds. So, for example, obviously I've used a lot of base images, and I've just dragged and dropped a lot and painted it in with all these images. This is all from one art package. So this particular art package is coming out in August. I'm doing a little preview here. Our art subscription is $5 a month, and includes everything that has been released and everything that's coming out. We release new stuff every single month, new themes, new art packs, all the time. And I believe that there's 30-something products out so far. So $5 a month, you get access to like 30 art packages and a whole bunch of different themes. And I just think that I think that you can also do it for like $50 a year. It's in the thousands of images. I think that the last count that I did, that's before this month and last month, I think that there was something about 3,500 images or so, or maybe even more than that. I don't remember. And I'm just painting in some shadows here. We'll add in some from these towers. Just some nice, soft little subtleties. And also, all of the images that we make, all of the maps that we make on our stream, I'm here every Saturday from 3 p.m. Eastern time to about 6. We build a map every single time, and all of them are going on the Forge as well. So you guys will have access to everything that we've created on the streams. And there's a lot. Yeah, I think we'll do a little bit, maybe like right down through there where there's these peaks that intersect. Yeah, that's looking good. And so I can use another adjust colors layer here, and I'll show you guys something else that you can do with it. I'm going to grab it and we'll just drop it all the way down on top of the water. I'm going to do it underneath that water layer. Let's actually remove this. I don't really need that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to increase my brightness here by a lot. And again, I'm going to make a mask. And I'm just going to create a little bit of a layer around the outside so you can see. Let's see here. I'll just kind of show you in this little section over here, right? So let's say I want to do this, and then I can just blur out that mask to create that cool effect off of the water here. Maybe we'll drop that back some. Or I could even go in the other direction if I wanted to make it darker. Now, why don't we make it a little bit darker this time around? give it a little bit more contrast. This is the next art pack right here. They already have that Drake Star Dragon. Yep, we can already do that. So you can use the lighting system to create all your shadows as well. Absolutely. So why don't we just dive into this a little bit, and where we have a few new people here, we can do some of this. Yeah. So we'll do a little tangent over here, and we'll jump over here, and let's get up into, why don't we go into an interior map pack here? So we'll do let's see here, interior map pack 2. Let's grab here, and so we'll go into our decorations, and we got tons and tons of stuff here. So let's say, for example, well, I'll do. Whoops, let me just click over there. We'll go back to where we are. We'll grab this anvil. All right, so we have this nice little anvil over here, and we want it to cast some shadows and whatnot. So I'm going to make a painting layer first, and I'm just going to use like the regular tools here. So I'm just going to make this like a light gray so that we can kind of see. So I'll make this like here, and I'm just going to draw, and we'll drop that underneath our anvil here. Okay. Now we'll get into our lighting system here. This is the modern theme. It's just like a simple, low contrast modern theme. I use these themes a lot when I'm working, because they're really easy on my eyes. So let's say, for example, I'm going to add in some lighting to this, and I don't want it to block any sort of line of sight, but I want it to cast a shadow, and this will even cast shadows from player torches and whatnot, right? So our shadow occluders are going to work for all of that. So we're going to go over to shadow caster occluder, and I'm just going to grab my line tool, and I'm going to do like a basic kind of shadow here. And I'm actually just going to do this shape. So I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to say that this is what I want to cast the shadow, right? So I've set up this, and this is attached directly to the image. So if I come back over here and I move this around and I come back, you can see it goes with the image itself. So it's all attached. We don't have to worry about anything along those lines. So let me just move it back here, and then I'm going to turn on my line of sight. So I'm going to come back over in here. I'm going to make sure my lighting is enabled, and I'm going to turn on line of sight too. And I'm also going to turn on see as players see. So this is my GM view, and then this is how the players are going to see it, because there's no lighting in there right now, right? So I'm going to jump over here, and I'm actually going to go in, and let's just add in some ambient light. This will be like the classic kind of outside daylight. And we have some presets. So why don't we do sunlight, right? And you can see that it's already some shadows being cast there, but I can change the direction, and I can change the length of the shadow. I can also change the color of the shadow. So if I want my shadows to be darker or any other color that I wish, I can. So I can just move these down. And then I also have an alpha slider. So let's change this to maybe like 2, or maybe like 3. And we'll just change it so that maybe it's going in this direction, right? So here, this doesn't change any of the lighting whatsoever. We're going to grab a token here in a second and see how this all works. But well, maybe we'll just make it go straight down, just for simplicity's sake, right? So it's, and so we have a light coming straight down, and I can change the color of the light. Maybe we'll do it like yellowy light, and then we'll change this to maybe a little bit more of a blue shadow. That's a little bit too yellow, so why don't we just back that off a little bit. And now we have some shadows, and we have set the length of the shadow that's going to be cast. And so now I'm going to go into my combat tracker, and I'm going to grab my little buddy Bob. And we go into the play area here. This is where we're going to be playing. And we'll grab Bob and we'll throw him on here. And now when I click on Bob, and make sure that Bob is selected, and you see I can move around. Bob, this doesn't change anything that Bob sees or anything along those lines, right? But let's say that Bob has a candle. Throw candle on Bob. Now you're going to see very little amount of the candle, but you can see it adds to the slightly different light. But look, it affects these shadows, right? So when he comes in here, he's actually going to, you can see there's a little bit of a flicker. You'll see this a lot better. I can actually turn down the lighting, but you can see that the shadows are going to be taken away by Bob's own shadow caster here. Now the cool thing about this is, and the reason why that these are important, is because Fantasy Grounds actually takes into account a lighting system for what tokens are visible. Now this is kind of crazy cool. So let's say we have our little goblin friend here, right? And he is visible, right? So he is visible, and we're going to go back into our lighting system, and we're going to change this so that this is. And we're going to make this quite a bit bigger. Let's make a nice long kind of shadow there, right? Now, if something is in cast and shadow, if it's in dark, and I'll just drop down my lighting here a little bit. I'm going to turn this to white and then make it a little bit darker so you can see Bob's light source. If we take away the ambient light source, so if I turn this off, it will not. So if I am here, right here, this is what Bob sees. You can see that it'll block his lighting. So from Bob's perspective, it will create a shadow, right? So let's increase the distance of his lighting here. So right now, his vision's set only to 10 too. So let's delete that. So I could change the distance of this. We can do it right in here as well. So if I go to token light, you can see he's got a light and he's got all of these parameters. It's got flicker. We got all of our adjustments. So maybe we're going to increase the dim to 3 and the bright to 2. You can see there it is. So you can see that it doesn't cast the shadow in the same way. But yes, it does. It stops the lighting from coming through. But he can still see on the other side if there's enough ambient lighting, right? But the way that this starts to get really cool is that Fantasy Grounds takes into account how much lighting there is and whether or not a token is visible. So if I take my goblin friend and I drop him on this side, because he is red, right? I'm the GM, so I can see that he's there. Bob can't see that goblin. It's too dark for him to see it. His light is being blocked by the casting of the shadow. And even though that this is off, right, like the distance of that shadow that we have set, right? So when Bob comes around the corner, now you can see it. You can see that it's lit up. So you can actually hide NPCs in shadowed areas that they'll be able to see that there's an area over there, but unless Bob actually has a light source, and even though that there is a player on the playing field, because it's too dark for him to see it, yeah, it's a tall handful. Well, maybe Bob's a halfling. He's just really short. But yes. Or maybe the goblin's just hiding down in behind it. But you can set up some really, really cool kind of scenarios. And what I'll oftentimes do is create rooms where there's a little bit of a light in one corner, but many of the corners of the room are in not total darkness, but just enough so that something could be hiding over there. And I just think it's so much fun. And so let's say, for example, if here we have Bob, now we can no longer see the goblin, right? But now, if I come back over to the lighting system, because this doesn't actually block line of sight, only blocks light, I can go back in here, and if I turn this back on, and I drop this shadow down, right? This should come back on. But it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. Again, I'm in the test channel. But yes, so all of that should be appropriate. Let's see here. Let me make sure that I have all of my parameters correctly set. Yeah, let's turn that. Yeah, there it is. So you're, yeah, move Bob. All of it is all intertwined together. The line of sight, the lighting system, everything is all integrated. It's all one system that works cohesively together. Yes, the shadow that I am creating. So let's say, for example, if I can just delete this. And now, as you can see, Bob can see the goblin now. So the shadow that he was creating was blocking its movement. Yeah. And now that there is, I think that let's increase that. So let's, if we, as you can see, this is a really good representation. So this is when it goes to here. So here, everything is still visible. Everything is still able to be seen. There's enough light there. And then it's too dark. Bob cannot see him any longer. No, because the lighting system is integrated in everything, there's no way to use the lighting system to just create shadows without it affecting the entire combat scenario. So that's why we have all of these other ways that's why we have all of these other ways to integrate lots of different shadows, right? So what I'll actually do, let me just grab this stuff and drop it down in underneath my structure thing here. So what I can do here is I can just come in and I can create my own shadows. And if I want to change the blur, I can create any sort of shadow that I want to, just like this, or I can paint in shadows. So there's a multitude of ways that we can kind of get in and do that. Which is what I was doing over here. I was just adding in some different shadows, and you can see I can make them as dark or as light as I wish. So you can actually do it with images too. We paint in our shadows all the time. I gotta be over here. So a really quick little brief. Now they don't create shadows, but they do block the vision. So in all actuality, not vision, but the lighting. The intensity of the lighting, yeah. And there's all kinds of different types of occluders. So if we get into the actual occluders itself, we have walls and terrain, and they all interact differently. We have doors. All of our doors are interactable. So our doors, a player can actually click on it unless it's locked and open the door itself. We have secret doors or toggleable walls, windows, and many of these have other options. So that you windows, for example, do not block line of sight; they just block movement. So you can actually set up. You can use it instead of a window. You can actually use it to create like invisible barriers and whatnot. But we also have illusory walls, and then we have pits. Pits are so much fun. Basically, a pit is you can see into it, but not out of it. And it also does not block movement in, but it blocks movement out. So it's great for traps. And then we have shadow casters, which just affects the shadows. And again, I am in the test channel. So there's a whole new build coming out with lots of neat changes. So there is a little bit of tweaking and whatnot inside of here. Do you guys have any other questions? I'm going to play with this a little bit. I think I might just change the color slightly to get a little bit more contrast around the outside there. We're kind of winding down on the stream now. We got about 15 minutes left or so. So if you guys have any other questions, or if there's anything else that you would like for me to explain or go over or demonstrate, I handle all of the, I create all of the art packs, the Smiteworks art packs, as well as a lot of the in-house art products, themes and whatnot. So I primarily work in the image side of things, which is my area of expertise. So if I happen to say something, or if there's something that isn't quite right, I apologize, because again, it's not really, I do use Fantasy Grounds all the time. So I do have a pretty good understanding of all the different systems, but let's see. I think, what if we make it a little bit more green, actually by dropping down the red and the blue. And then that's a little bit too much. Yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. Let's change this to 50, this to 45, and this to 50. Yeah, and then I'm going to increase this, and then I think I'll do another one on the inside of that. Maybe we'll bring that down to 45. Yeah, that's pretty good. And we'll just go right around here. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds just has some, you could, not only in the lighting system is there lights, but you can also do darkness. So you can do like magical darkness and whatnot, which is super cool. You can actually put in, so if I were to put in and add a light, I can actually make it a darkness. And so if I were to turn the line of sight back on, oh, there's some interesting things going on over here from the effects layer. Again, this is in a test channel here, so let's turn our ambient lighting back on. So here we have a darkness light. Oh, thanks so much, Play Games Patty. I almost said Patty Games Play. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to the Forge as well. Oh, before we go too far, whoops. Before we go too far, there's also some additional things in the upcoming art pack that I wanted to talk about and show you guys. Let's go all the way up to the new settlements one. This is the settlements art pack that's going to be coming out. And we have a whole bunch of effects in here as well as decor. And again, I have classic kind of shadow brushes that I oftentimes add in. But I also have some really great kind of like a vignette here. And I think that this should be like 100 by 100. I think that's what we made it. And oftentimes vignettes are always dark, right? But inside of Fantasy Grounds, we can do all of these adjustments. So I'm just going to make this, well, actually, let's make it a little bit bluer. Add a little bit of darkness on the edges. Yeah, very cool. We can also come in and, so these are all of these textures and whatnot that you can add on top with greatest of ease to enhance your image here. As you can see with the vignette, it adds a lot of focus to the center here, which is super fun. But we also have all of these cool decor items that we should throw out here really quickly before we leave. So we have some cool like compass roses that you can place around, as you can see. We also have some more of the classic ones. And again, if you need it to be a little bit darker or whatnot, we can just go into our layers tab. And again, we can darken this right up. We can bring it all the way down to black if we wanted to. We can also change its opacity if we wanted to make it feel like it's a little bit worn in there. Or its size, and I'm going to hold down Shift to maintain its aspect lock ratio, so we can do things like this. It's super fun. In addition to that, there's lots of decorative elements. So we have like a lot of like corner decorations and whatnot if you wanted to make your map. And then we also have inside of here, we have 1 through 10 for all of these elements. So if we wanted to place these around, we could as well. And this works really, really well. There's a blank one in here that you can add in. And with the GM symbols, all of this stuff is going to work really well together. So in our GM symbols pack, we have all of our base letters and numbers that we can kind of place around and make anything that we want to. But in addition to that, we have all of our symbols. So this is really great kind of combination to doing these things. So maybe we want to throw some of these on and make these into our little symbols for where things are and what they are. So tons and tons of stuff here. Super fun. Are there any other questions that you guys have? And I think what we'll actually do is I'm really having a fun time making this map. I think that we'll continue it next time and this next week, and we'll finish it up. I'll have all the complete iteration of the art pack loaded up, and we'll do all of the bells and whistles and do all the really fun stuff. We'll put in all of our roads and all of our courtyards and all kinds of items around, and make it really feel like a really cool place. I really want to finish make this an entire map here, and maybe we can actually add in some waterfalls and whatnot. I really do like the waterfalls a lot in here. I think that they're super cool, and they're really fun to deal with. Obviously we want to make these an appropriate size, but you can add these in lots of different ways. Really cool stuff. And as I said before, if we go all the way up here, these are maps that I actually made with it. I think I actually already pulled that out, didn't I? Let me go back into my images here. And let's just type in city. So yeah, so you can see here are the waterfalls in their usage. And here we have our nice little cliff brush, and you can see how well you can integrate that into all of this different stuff. So here is a completed kind of environment, and this will come with the art package as well. Fun stuff, super fun stuff. I really like this giant bridge that is like a place all unto itself. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I guess we'll call it here if there's no other questions. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me this afternoon. I always look forward to my Saturday stream. Super fun. It's a great way for me to end the week. I only take Sunday off, so this is like the end of my work week, and I just think it's a great way to end it. And if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything that you want to see me cover on the stream, please, let me know. I am more than happy to do whatever I can to help you guys. I try to be here every Saturday. Once in a great while, I have some issues and whatnot. Oh, thanks so much, DJ Break Time. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, you know what I think it is? I think it's finding that balance between not only because you want to find that kind of, it's got to be symbolic, it's got to be an image, but it's also you want it to have the feeling and that feel that you want. And I always try to find that balance, so I appreciate that very much. A lot of it, I think, is to do with like the shadows and that kind of stuff. Like being able to paint in shadows in Fantasy Grounds, I think it just adds so much to it. It just adds and like here's all the same kind of bridges and whatnot. And you can see here, this is actually the little lighthouse from one of the other art packs. That was fun to add in there. But I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys always being such a great community, and always having such great supportive everything, all of it. So I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys all next time. I'll be here Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we usually run till just about 6 o'clock. So hopefully I'll see you all next time, and take care all.